Chapter 423. Fang Yuan, you little bastard. Translator, Chibi General Editor, Chibi General. Not selling gutstones, but selling rockmen instead? Feng Yang looked at the letter in his hand with a grim expression. In Hu Immortal Blessed Land, the guts goo from Donghun Mountain was the thing Immortal Crane Sect needed the most. Once they had the guts goo to raise the foundation of their disciples' soul, Immortal Crane Sect's strength in terms of disciples would rise by 30%. Furthermore, gutstones could not leave Donghun Mountain. They could only be used on the spot. Thus, with this reason, Immortal Crane Sect disciples could freely enter Hu Immortal Blessed Land. As time passed, Fang Yuan's alertness would gradually fall, and Immortal Crane Sect would be free to set up some traps inside the Blessed Land. But Fang Yuan adamantly refused to sell the gutstones. Feng Yang was very troubled. Since when did great Gu immortals like myself have to be subjected to such difficulties from a mere mortal rascal? He gritted his teeth as he thought, his handsome young face distorting with anger. He had battle strength, but he could not display them. Fang Yuan was hiding inside the Blessed Land like a tortoise. He also had fixed immortal travel Gu and could leave at any time. Feng Yang, and even the entire Immortal Crane Sect were afraid of his trump cards, and thus did not dare to attack. It seems the rockmen that Hu Immortal brought into her Blessed Land are still alive. But this Fang Yuan is selling so many of these rockmen now. Just how many guts goo did he use to create them? Thinking of this, Feng Yang's heart was bleeding. Several months had passed since the last transaction. The time in Hu Immortal Blessed Land was 5 times faster. Thus he had around a year or so. Fang Yuan nurtured so many young and strong rockmen. If these expended guts goo were given to Immortal Crane Sect and used to nurture disciples, how good would that be? But this rascal Fang Yuan, he would rather nurture rockmen than give these guts goo to Immortal Crane Sect. His motives are execrable. Execrable. What made Feng Yang most furious was not just this. Most importantly, he was angry at himself, these rockmen that Fang Yuan was selling. Even if he was a Gu immortal, his heart was moved. In a blessed land, if there were ample rockmen, Gu immortals could develop their underground land and excavate large amounts of resources. All sorts of metals, gems, ore, as well as Gu worms, underground animals, they could be endlessly obtained. Other than that, if they had enough rockmen, they can build an underground city. This was, in a way, expanding the Blessed Land's territory. If there was no manpower in the Blessed Land, the resources Gu immortals excavate would mostly be from the surface. It was limited. But if they had rockmen and could even use the resources underground, the profits would be many times more than before. Thus, in the market, rockmen were in high demand and low supply. A rockman's life is mostly spent on sleeping. An ordinary rockman lives to 1,000 years old. In one life, they have 4 children. It was not impossible to use soul path Gu worms on them to raise their soul's strength. Many Gu immortals tried it, but none succeeded. There was only one reason: cost. The value of a soul path. Gu worms greatly exceeded a single rockman. Unless a Gu immortal has a special need for rockmen, they would never profit from this. In this world, only Fang Yuan, who controlled Donghun Mountain, could nurture rockmen on such a scale. Furthermore, the price Fang Yuan quoted in this transaction was also very appealing. Even if Immortal Crane Sect did not need it, they could resell it and earn at a huge profit. But because this was such a good deal, Feng Yang felt extremely troubled. He knew this was bait from Fang Yuan. Not afraid that you aren't moved, just afraid you won't take the bait. Just as Fang Yuan had expected, Feng Yang was already inclined toward the deal. Not just him, Immortal Crane Sect would also be moved, and other Gu immortals would also want this deal. The rockmen trading business could flourish for at least 100 years. This wicked little rascal Fang Yuan, he is really devious. But with this batch of rockmen, I could show some results to Supreme Grand Elder, Second Elder, and Third Elder. I can also make Lei Tun's shut up. I can catch a breather in that case. Feng Yang breathed heavily, calming his mind. He squinted his eyes, his mouth curling into a cold smile. But don't be too smug, Fang Yuan. Tit for tat, if you don't sell guts goo, I will not sell relic goo. Didn't you want yellow gold relic goo and purple crystal relic goo? No way in hell. Fang Yuan laid on his chair, looking at immortal Crane Sek's reply. Because Blue Charm Lightning's shadow was still guarding TNT Mountain, Little Hu Immortal did not dare to open the Blessed Land's doors. Thus, Immortal Crane Sek used the flying sword letter goo this time. Fang Yuan took a look and understood the content. In He Feng Yang's letter, other than agreeing to the deal, he also stated his objective: to buy Guts Goo. For the Guts Goo, he could sell Relic Goo, or even lend a hand to help survive the 7th earthly calamity. Fang Yuan chuckled continuously. Letting He Feng Yang into Hu Immortal Blessed Land was a greater danger than the calamity itself. That was impossible. As for the Relic Goo, did he think that threat would be Fang Yuan's weakness? What a laughable idea. I will definitely not sell the Guts Goo, but I can sell Rockman. I have no worries about attracting Immortal Crane Sect. But I cannot just deal with Immortal Crane Sect alone. I also need to expand my business further. Fang Yuan considered. With his 500 years of experience, Fang Yuan knew that his sale price is lower than the market value. Immortal Crane Sect would definitely profit from this trade. But this was also arranged by Fang Yuan. That is because at the moment, he needed his identity as an Immortal Crane Sect disciple. Thus, he also needed to maintain and sustain this fictitious relationship. With this profit, He Feng Yang's pressure would be lifted off him. He wants my blessed land, but I also need time to grow. After I become a Goo Immortal, would I still be afraid of Immortal Crane Sect? Fang Yuan laughed plainly. He looked at the letter again. At the end of it, He Feng Yang decided on a time and requested Fang Yuan to open the door to send in the whole Earth Goo. This was a very large-scale transaction. Fang Yuan was going to sell 60,000 Rockmen, but these Rockmen could not leave from the Blessed Land's doors. At the moment, that Blue Charm Lightning shadow was still moving around TNT Mountain. If the doors were opened and it managed to rush in, Fang Yuan would be in huge trouble. Thus, in this situation, he needed to use Whole Earth Goo. This Goo was rank 5 and consisted of 2 Goo, the main Goo and the Sub Goo. Its biggest use was to connect the 2 places with 1 tunnel. The Goo Master will enter from the Sub Goo and come out from the main Goo, similarly for the opposite direction as well. Whole Earth Goo was often used to connect 2 blessed lands. Normally, Whole Earth Goo was used to transport and send resources. During war or battles, reinforcements could be sent in via the Whole Earth Goo, assisting immediately. To undergo the transaction and send these Rockmen away, Whole Earth Goo has to be used inevitably. But I am worried that your Whole Earth Goo might have some traps in it. I'd rather refine it myself. Fang Yuan thought about this and leaked the Spring-Autumn Cicada's aura, refining the flying sword letter Goo and rapidly writing a letter back to He Feng Yang. Half a day later, He Feng Yang received the letter, looking at it only to find large amounts of goo worms listed in it and all sorts of ingredients. Oh, you don't want to use my Whole Earth Goo, but you improved on the recipe and want to refine the new version yourself? He Feng Yang was furious. Bullshit! Whole Earth Goo has already been used for 500 years. The recipe is known by all Goo Immortals. You think you can refine it further? Fang Yuan, this rascal's alertness is too high. He wants to use this chance to extort me, so that I would not dare to reject his deals again. I don't need to see to know that the Relic Goo or Spring Egg Goo or some rare Goo worms in the Strength Path is included. Eh? None? He Feng Yang gave it a glance, but did not see any Relic Goo, Spring Egg Goo, or any Strength Path Goo listed. But there were a lot of uncommon Goo, and even some low-ranking Goo worms. The highest was rank 5 Goo worms, the Earth Path built a mountain Goo, normally used to increase the success rate of Goo refinement. Other than that, he requested a lot of rank 4 Goo, the commonly seen moving form Goo, and the very useful another perspective Goo. He Feng Yang wavered. Looking at this list, it seems he really is going to refine Goo. As long as his luck is okay, the materials are enough to refine 3 Whole Earth Goo. Don't tell me he really improved the recipe of Whole Earth Goo? No, Fang Yuan is a mere mortal. How can this be? But what if he has a Goo Immortal behind him? If it was an improved recipe, then the new goo would definitely be far stronger than whole earth goo. Feng Yang's heart wavered. Even if he could not get the recipe, after Fang Yuan succeeds the refinement, he would have to give the sub-goo to him. By then, he as a goo immortal would be able to infer many details about the goo from that sub-goo, and he has a high chance of recreating the same recipe. 2 days later, Fang Yuan received the letter. Fang Yuan opened it and looked just as he expected. Feng Yang made all sorts of excuses inside the letter, intentionally reducing the amount of many materials in goo worms. His motive was clear. He wanted to probe Fang Yuan's true recipe. Fang Yuan laughed and shook his head while sighing. This Feng Yang was too meticulous in his thoughts. This was both a strength and a weakness. Although they had interacted for merely a few times, Fang Yuan had already seen through him. Fang Yuan replied blandly that Feng Yang was not to reduce any of the materials. Otherwise, the refinement would fail. But Feng Yang continued to argue and bargain. He said so much garbage that he almost believed his own excuses. After a few times, Fang Yuan helplessly chose to give in, writing another list. Lad, you are too young to compete with me. Feng Yang saw this letter, then handed over a portion of the materials, while finding excuses to delay the others. With the constant stalling, they wasted about 8 to 9 days. Only until Fang Yuan showed an extremely helpless and angry attitude did Feng Yang stop, realizing that the time was ripe, using the 6th list, which had far less materials to do his research. But his goo refinement skills were not good. Even after researching it thoroughly and trying a few times, he did not get any results. Half a month later, in Central Continent's time, he received the whole earth goo from Fang Yuan. He received it like a treasure, going into deep research again. But this time, he spent 3 days before successfully reverse engineering the recipe. Looking at this recipe, Feng Yang screamed, "Fang Yuan, you little bastard! This is the normal recipe for whole earth goo." Immediately, he screamed and scolded Fang Yuan, calling him shameless, unscrupulous, devious, vile, and his insults even extended to Fang Yuan's ancestors.